You already have a picture of it. The last moment. Somewhere in your head, a switch clicks off. On, then black, then nothing. The way a screen dies the instant you pull the plug. That is how almost everyone imagines the end of a mind. Instant, clean, a light going out. It is the one thing about your own death that is almost certainly wrong. Your brain is not a bulb, and it does not switch off. It winds down, in a sequence, in a specific order. Over a stretch of time we have only just learned how to watch. And in those final seconds, the last thing your brain does may not be nothing at all. It may be the most concentrated, most vivid thing it has ever done. So the question is not whether you will have a last thought. You will. The real question, the one that has only just become answerable, is what it will be. And the early answer is far stranger than the switch. Start with the assumption. We treat death as a line. One side alive, the other side gone, and a single instant where you cross it. The heart stops, the person ends. Clean. For almost all of human history, that was the only story we had, because no one could see past the line. The moment the heart quit, the body went still, and whatever happened inside the skull happened in the dark, in secret, unrecorded. But the brain does not obey that line. When your heart stops, your brain does not stop with it. It still holds seconds of oxygen, seconds of stored charge, and it spends them. Consciousness only fades about 10 to 20 seconds after the blood stops moving. Anyone who has ever fainted has felt the short trailer of it, the tunnel, the fold, the going under. 10 seconds sounds like nothing, but a brain can do an enormous amount in 10 seconds. And unconscious, it turns out, is not the same as off. In 2013, a neuroscientist named Jimo Borjigin at the University of Michigan decided to stop guessing and actually look to record a brain all the way through the moment of death, second by second. Her team placed electrodes across the brains of rats and, under anesthesia, stopped their hearts. Everyone expected the same picture: activity fading, dimming, sliding gently down to a flat line. The opposite happened first. In the first 30 seconds after the heart stopped, the dying brain did not dim. It surged. It lit up with a burst of high-frequency gamma waves, the fastest, most organized rhythm a brain can make. And those waves were more synchronized, more coherent than in the animal's normal waking life. Read that again. In the half-minute after clinical death, the brain became, by this measure, more awake than awake. Not less conscious, more. And here's the part that should stop you. Gamma waves are not random static. A brain does not pour out that exact rhythm by accident. It makes gamma when it is doing one particular kind of work, the vivid, unmistakable work of experience itself. So if the dying brain floods with the signature of experience, then in those last seconds it is experiencing something specific. What is a dying brain reaching for, alone in the dark? To answer that, you would have to catch a human brain in the act, wired up by pure accident. In 2022, that is exactly what happened. A man in his late 80s lay in a hospital in Estonia, his brain being monitored with EEG because he had recently developed epilepsy. In the middle of the recording, he had a heart attack, and he died, while the electrodes were still running. By pure accident, for the first time in history, we had a complete recording of a human brain crossing the line. The 30 seconds before and the 30 seconds after, the last heartbeat. The neuroscientist Zemmar, then at the University of Louisville, studied those 60 seconds, and he found the surge, the same gamma waves, the same fireworks the rats had shown. But now the pattern could speak, because in a human brain we know what that rhythm means. Gamma like this is what your brain produces when you dream, when you concentrate, and above all, when you remember. When you pull a memory up out of the dark and relive it. The dying brain was not shutting down. It looked like it was remembering. It is tempting to wave that away. One old man, one strange recording, one accident, a fluke. Except the fluke kept happening. In 2023, Borjigin's team went back, this time to 4 dying people whose families had agreed to withdraw life support. Their brains recorded to the very end. In 2 of the 4, as the support was removed and the heart began to fail, the brains did the same impossible thing. They surged. In one of those patients, the gamma activity leapt to as much as 300 times its earlier level. and it gathered in one particular place, the exact strip of brain at the back where the lobes meet, that scientists have tied most closely to conscious experience, the hot zone of the self. Two different labs, rats and humans, the same result. At the edge of death, in the very region that makes you you, the brain does not fade to black, it flares. And a few of the people this happens to come back and remember it. At NYU Langone Health, a doctor named Sam Parnia has spent years studying these exact moments. In his 2023 study, Aware 2, his team monitored 567 people whose hearts had stopped through the entire fight to revive them. On the monitors, organized brainwaves, gamma, and the slower rhythms of thought kept resurfacing, sometimes as much as an hour into CPR, long after the patients were, by every clinical measure, already dead. And about 4 in 10 of those who were brought back recalled something from that time. Not chaos, not hallucination, lucid, structured experiences, a sense of rising out of the body, an absence of pain, and, again, the same event, a review of their own life, their choices, the people they had loved, and how they had treated them. The line we draw between here and gone turns out not to be a line at all. It is a doorway, and the light beneath it stays on far longer than anyone dared believe. Now, all of this can sound like a nightmare. Awake while you die, aware and unable to speak as the room works over your body. But look again at what the brain actually reaches for in that final surge. Not fear, not pain. Across every one of these studies, the dying brain keeps turning toward the same thing, memory. It floods with the rhythm of recollection, and it goes looking for faces, for moments, for the people who mattered. The organ that spent your whole life quietly deleting almost everything you lived, forgetting your days by the thousands, appears at the very end to turn around. And remember, so go back to the picture you started with, the switch, the clean click into black. It is probably not like that. The last thought you will ever have may not be an ending at all, but a return. Your brain, in its final 30 seconds, doing the most human thing it knows, gathering up your life and playing it back, holding all of it at once. One last time. You spend your whole existence collecting moments you are certain you will lose. Maybe you don't lose them. Maybe you carry every one of them quietly all the way to the door, and the last thing you ever do is take them out and look. Science cannot tell you what will be in that final recall. That part is yours. You are writing it right now, today, with what you choose to notice and who you choose to love. But it can already tell you the shape of it. Your last thought will most likely be a memory. So be careful and be generous about what you give yourself to remember. One day, it may be the only thing still playing.